Meanwhile, 2 years since the events Mccabe described, the president is still in office, and if anything, he's only gotten more volatile. For more on McCabe's revelations, I'm joined by Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California, member of the House Judiciary Committee. It's good to be here, Congressman. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Chris.
What's your reaction to what this really remarkable account McCabe gives of the way in which the president's firing of Comey triggered this kind of crisis in the Department of Justice?
Andrew McCabe gave a number of very disturbing statements about the behavior of Donald Trump. To me, one of the most alarming was that Donald Trump believed Putin over our intelligence officials. No president of the United States should believe a former KGB operative over career U.S. intelligence officials. And it makes you really wonder, what does Putin have on Trump that would make him behave this way? And it's consistent with Trump's behavior over the last 2 years with his bizarre relationship towards Russia.
You know, the president has reacted to all this, and he and his allies on Trump TV and other places have had a narrative for a long time that essentially these are rogue elements of the deep state who didn't like the results of the election or sort of plotting a coup. The president, I think, even used the word treason today. What's your reaction to that framework for understanding these events?
I'm a former prosecutor. These are law enforcement personnel. They're looking at facts, trying to determine if crimes are committed. Rosenstein is a Republican, and he's looking at the same thing we all saw, which is the president fired the FBI director and then went on national TV a couple days later and said, I did it because of the Russia investigation. That looks like textbook obstruction of justice, and it makes you really wonder, what is this president doing? Which is why it's not surprising they may have had these discussions about the 25th Amendment.
What does it say about the status, to your mind, constitutionally of the Justice Department, which seems to be kind of the core question here, right? It's part of the executive. It's under the Article 2 powers of the president. But in some level, we want it to be independent. And here you see, I mean, the Mccabe account is people wrestling in real time with where their responsibilities and loyalties lie.
Yeah, so this president raises all sorts of different constitutional issues that we never encountered because no one's ever broken this many norms, from this fake national emergency to the actions he's taken to really attack the Justice Department, attack law enforcement. And when you look at the Constitution, nothing in there says you can't indict a sitting president. And the whole lesson of Watergate, to me, is that the American people said no one is above the law. And the DOJ is charged with enforcing the law and prosecuting people who committed crimes.
And so you think that, and you've made this clear before in hearings and stuff, you think that one of the ways to resolve this inherent contradiction is just to say formally to the DOJ, you do have to indict a sitting president.
Absolutely, because if you say you don't, then essentially the president is above the law, because what you're saying is none of the laws in America can be enforced against the president. And there's no way the American people would accept that. It's not in our Constitution. And I'm very proud of what the FBI and the DOJ have done so far, as well as their prosecutors out of the Southern District of New York, as well as state attorneys generals. Everyone's taking their oaths to the Constitution seriously.
There's something interesting about McCabe saying that the thing that precipitated this is the firing of Comey, right? They sort of thought what they might be seeing as a cover-up in plain sight of the Russian investigation. At the same time, you have the man who is now the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr, on the record having written a memo saying the president firing Comey because it was exercising constitutional duties almost by definition cannot be obstruction of justice. What do you think about that?
So it's very interesting what Barr said later, which is basically he didn't have all the facts at the time he wrote that memo. It's also very interesting to look at his actual testimony before the U.S. Senate. He does concede, yes, there are lots of different cases where the president can obstruct justice. And just because Trump does this in public, in full view and brazenly, doesn't mean it's not a crime. And that's something the House Judiciary Committee, in which I sit, is going to investigate. We're going to hold hearings, and we're going to look at obstruction of justice, abuse of power, as well as witness tampering.
Finally, I guess my question to you is, where do you see, how confident are you right now in the independence and protection inside that building, the Department of Justice, with Barr now at the top and Rosenstein being widely reported moving out, that they're going to be able to continue to do the work they need to do?
So none of this is okay. It's not okay that you have career FBI officials really struggling with what do we do with a president that looks like he's violating the law. It's not okay for the president to routinely attack law enforcement. But I have more hope than I think some of my leagues, because even before the midterm elections last November, we still had a Republican-led investigation of a Republican president from the Department of Justice. That's very impressive, and that investigation is still going on. I'm not sure a lot of countries would have allowed this to happen. The fact that Robert Mueller still has his job, I think, is a testament to how strong our institutions still are.
You think they're holding so far?
I do.
You don't think William Barr changes that by walking into the offices of the Department of Justice?
I hope he doesn't, but American people voted to give Democrats subpoena power last November, so we still have that option.
All right, Ted Lieu, Congressman here from Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.